All right. So today I'm with my friend Jeremie Roberts, and Jeremie is a very impressive man. He is an actor, and he is the CEO of ZJAE Productions. He's also the CEO of his own credit repair company called Exodus Credit Services. And you can find them at exoduscreditservices.com. And he's also written one of a best-selling book on Amazon called Effed Up My Credit.
Yeah.
Jeremie, hold that book up. Yeah, hold that up.
I think the title got the most attention. Effed up my credit. Everybody wants to see it. Yeah.
It's a great title. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you want. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Jeremie has had quite a journey. And today, on the podcast Searching for Happy, we talk about, practices, ideas, philosophies, tips on what can bring more fulfillment and joy in a person's life. And Jeremie went through a lot of suffering and pain early on and found a way out of it. And now he helps people that are dealing with very similar situations. So I'm going to let you start by telling a little bit about your backstory, who you are, and how that occurred.
All right, good. Well, thank you so much, first of all, Remy, for having me on.
Yeah, pleasure, man.
This is definitely an honor. So like you mentioned, Jeremie Roberts, that's my name. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. That's where I'm from. And I met this country girl from Virginia, and she was the baby of 10. And of course, that meant I had to leave Texas and come to Virginia. She wasn't leaving her family, right? Just to kind of just jump right into a little bit, because I tell my story. I mean, I have so many different layers to my story. And it's still been written, you know what I'm saying? It's still more things to come, but yeah, I have had some difficulties, just like most people, right?
Yep.
And so one of the things, I grew up in the house of four. It was me, my mom, my dad, and my brother. I'm the only one left from my entire household growing up. I lost mom, lost dad. My brother's life was taken in 2008. And so I've buried a son, I've buried grandparents, and just all of those things. And not to mention, in addition to losing loved ones, I basically lost everything. I've been in the mortgage industry. I worked in the mortgage industry for about 15 years. So I was part of the 2008, 2009 time frame when the bottom fell out, right?
Yeah.
So I went from a six-figure income to getting like a 56-cent check.
Right.
And so I we lost everything. I lost all my vehicles. I had like a Porsche, Mercedes. I lost it all. We lost our house. We filed bankruptcy twice. And I basically lost everything but my mind. That was the only thing that I think I lost a little bit of that too, but it's coming back. And so what I did is that when COVID hit, right, there was a lot of things that I kind of got a chance to just look back on. And as you know, a lot of things changed when COVID hit. We learned to operate in a different way. Okay. And so I really got the opportunity to look back over my life and the things that I was doing. And I said, okay, how can I do that and help people on a deeper level? And so in 2019, I wrote the book, Effed Up My Credit. And of course, it got a lot of attention just from the name. And by the way, for all you, righteous people, the effed up stands for fixed up, right? I used to be involved in a lot of ministries with different churches and stuff. And so they would invite me in to sing or speak or whatever. And when I wrote the book, if you can just imagine, Remy, that like all of those invites just left, right? They're like, no, we don't know if we want effed up my credit in our, so I'm like, well, that's your mind, because it stands for fixed up. So I wrote the book 2019. I told my story. I told this story of a young boy that grew up in a household. My mom's a school teacher, and she really didn't know a lot about credit, right? We were just trying to keep the lights and the water on at the same time, Some months we had options. Do you want water or do you want lights? Mom did her best to keep everything going. And so, basically we didn't know anything about credit, right? We didn't know anything about, savings and financing and life insurance and things of that nature. And so, of course, going to college, I didn't learn about any of that during that time either. Matter of fact, that's when all the trouble started, because I met somebody at the university that was sitting at a desk and say, "Hey, you want some free money?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure. How do we sign right here and fill this out?" And that was my first credit card that I just tore up. And some of your viewers or listeners
Uh-oh.
probably can relate to that, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Giving me $1,000 and it doesn't have to come from me, it come from somebody else. Yeah, I'll take it. And so when I wrote the book, I told my story, and I told it from my perspective, not only just being a person here in America or growing up not knowing a lot about it. I told it from my perspective. If you guys can see me or hear me, in case you're not sure, I'm what's considered Black or African American, right? So I wrote it from my perspective. Now, if I was Asian or if I was, Latino or if I was Caucasian, I would have wrote it from that perspective.
Sure.
So I had to write it from my perspective. And so when I worked in the mortgage industry, there was a lot of things that I started to notice. I started to notice that you had groups of people that had great credit, you had groups of people that had okay credit, and groups that had not so good credit. And so if I took 100 people from all those different groups, I would find that one group has the majority of one or the other. And I noticed that a lot of people that looked like me had bad credit. And so I started asking myself, well, why is that? Like, is there something wrong with the numbers and the algorithm and stuff like that? What is it? And what happened is that as the years went on, I started doing my research and started realizing like the biggest portion and the biggest reason for that was the lack of education, the lack of knowing the importance of credit and how to leverage credit to basically do what it is that you want to do. Because in our household, like I said, we didn't talk about it. And whenever it was talked about in a negative way.
Yeah.
No, you don't need credit cards. No, you don't need this. If you can't afford it, then don't get it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so that was the thing, stay away from credit. And it wasn't until I needed credit when I realized that I needed credit. And so the book, I talk about that whole story. I talk about the time when I had to fly to Houston. I got my plane ticket. What was it? Is it Priceline or something like that, where you can go ahead and book your rental car, the whole package. So I got my whole package. Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to Houston, see my mom. She was in the hospital. She was, passing away. So I got to the airport, and I flew and got to Houston, and I rented a rental car place. I'm like, yeah, I already paid. And so blah, blah, blah. And the rental person that's, okay, pull up my name. And then she's like, okay, well, I just need a credit card to put on file, and, we're good to go. I'm like, all right, cool. So I pull out my wallet and, look through, and I gave her a card. And she says, well, sir, this is a debit card. We need a credit card. I'm like, well, I've already paid for it, so you can just take the debit card. It has a Visa logo on it.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, well, if you use the debit card, we're gonna have to hold, I don't remember what it was, $200 or $300.
Yeah.
Well, I had like 150 in my account, right?
Gotcha.
So, if you put a hold on it, you would hold all my money. And so I had to take a seat. I had to sit down and reflect over some things, because here it is, my mom's in the hospital and I need to go and see her. But I'm dealing with this little issue right here. And then one by one, I saw people going up to the counter, pulling out their credit cards. They're smiling, the couples and kids and stuff like that. And everybody seemed so happy. And here I am sitting there angry. And I had to really self-reflect and say, okay, why am I in this position? And what can I do to get out of this position? Now, keep in mind, I was working for a bank, and I put this in the book too. I did have a bank card on me, a credit card, a corporate card for the bank. This was only to be used for business expenses. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, and you have to just read the book to find out what I did. Needless to say, I saw my mom, right?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I saw my mom, but you got to read the book to find out how that happened. So, but yeah, so during that time, I just really got a chance to reflect and say, okay, I need to do something about my situation. And even after that, things didn't look up until I started doing more research. And I said, you know what, I can do this stuff myself. When I started learning and understanding the credit system, not only the credit system, but the importance of credit, like how I could really do things with my business, how I can take trips, how I can, have fun with the family based upon credit. And so got myself in a situation to where I was able to get a lot of those negative items, just about all the negative items, all of the negative items on my credit removed. And I did it legally. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, well, if I can do that for myself, I can do it for now. I'm like, nah, I can't do it for nobody else. I'll just do it for myself. And I'll write in the book and I'll put names of people that I got information from and got notes from. And so I got that in the book, other people's names that do credit repair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when COVID hit, I got a chance to sit down and look and say, okay, I need to look at things from a different perspective. As I told you, I got a chance to work on the movie Harriet, with Harriet Tubman.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was filmed in Richmond. And so, got a chance to be a part of that. It's funny because like whenever we watch the movie, I always pause it and to show my family, I'm like, look, that's me right there running.
No, that's great, man.
Yeah, and I tell people I always say to people, hey, have you seen the movie Harry? Oh yeah, I've seen it. I'm like, well, I was in it, but let me tell you, if you blink, you missed me. Okay, I was just going that fast. But most of you guys that know the story about Harriet Tubman, basically she was a slave from birth, and she decided she wanted her freedom, and she was willing to die for that freedom. She said, okay, I'm either die or I'm gonna be free. So she escaped slavery. And when she escaped, she noticed this whole new world. She noticed this whole different, just a different way of being. And she had never experienced that before. And it was so good to her to where she wanted to go back and help other people that were in the same situation. And so when COVID hit, I got a chance to sit down and think about what it is that I really want to do and how do I really want to change lives. Keep in mind, I was already doing mortgages for people. And so I felt like, okay, that's helping people, right? That's
Sure.
putting
Yeah.
your dream home, your kids, stuff like that. But I noticed that like one of the banks I was working for, we had this great program like for community lending, low to moderate income and stuff. And it was a great program. But I noticed that out of 10 people that applied for that program, I had to decline about 7 or 8 of them. And so I started thinking like, how great is this program when people can't even be eligible for it? Why aren't they eligible? Right. The biggest issue was their credit. So I said, you know what? Forget that. All the excuses I had on why not to start a credit repair business got eliminated. And it was almost like I was presented with, okay, you say you want to help people, problem solve, what are you going to do? And so I walked away from my mortgage job. Matter of fact, they found out that I was a bestseller, right? And they was like, wait, did you write this book? I'm like, yeah. And even in the book, I talk about it. My job finding out about this, I'm gone. Because I talk about some of the banking industry and some of the things that they do. And my boss was like, well, I don't want you to go. I want you to stay. And I'm like, well, I have a credit repair business. And he was like, okay, well, compliance is not going to be cool with that. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I do mortgages I help people get mortgages. In order for somebody to get a mortgage, in most cases, you have to have a certain credit score. Mm-hmm. So what my business is doing is helping more people get qualified for mortgages. Why wouldn't that be a benefit to the bank?
Right. Yeah. That's what I think that you saw that even if you're doing mortgages, that there's a lot of people, especially coming from your community, you want to help in the Black community that aren't able to get these loans.
Right.
So then you found a solution to that issue, to that problem.
Yeah. And it was so interesting because I've been able to help everybody, right? It's just that I took a liking to, because I could relate to the stories. Okay. But what I'm finding out, the more and more I do this, there are people from all communities that can relate to this story.
Sure.
And it's so interesting when it got to that. But yeah, it got to a point to where, how can I help people on a deeper level? And when I had the conversation with the bank, I'm like, it is so odd that I'm trying to help people with their credit to get more homes that you say that you want to finance. And then I'm like, okay, I get the picture, why there's a big issue with that. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own hand. Me and my boss, we parted ways. He was happy for me. And he was like, I hope to never see you again, in a good way. Sure. I don't sure I'll quit your job and your boss is like, I don't want to see you again for real. He's like, I don't want to see you again, but if you call me, just, you got a place here. And so I left on good terms, but I want to put myself in a position to be able to help more people. And now I'm able to help more people buy homes. I see people all the time that I'm able to help. They're becoming homeowners. They're getting out of debt. They're getting from under the scrutiny of going through a bankruptcy and all of that stuff. And so that was fulfilling to me. So what I did, I took something that was very painful, because having bad credit is painful, because you pay higher interest rates, you get denied often. And so it's just a lot of things bad credit has attached to it.
Sure.
So I was able to take that pain and then find a purpose in it. And so now, not only am I helping other people with their credit, I'm also a partner in a company where we also we have a software that facilitates other credit repair business owners to run and operate their business. So I also part on in the software, and I coach other credit repair companies on how to do things ethically and how to, basically put themselves in a situation to where they're impacting people's lives. And so I'm excited about that because I went from, I don't want to do credit repair. I just want to do my own and write this book, to now, being a part of the entire industry. So I'm very
Yeah.
fond. Yeah.
Well, I imagine just, just having, just when you have the lack of access, right? If you don't have good credit, then you're not going to have access to a lot of the same things
Yeah.
that other people have access to.
Right.
And then what does that do to how you feel about you and
Yeah.
how you view the world?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It's interesting that you say that on how you view the world. And you're so right. You'll see somebody in this car, and their credit allowed them to get that car. Your credit, once you finagle some things, yeah, you're going to get that car, but guess what you're going to do? They're paying a 3% interest rate, and you're paying
right.
18 or 19%.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're paying more for the same product, and that means you have more disposable income, which makes it a lot easier for you to start missing payments and to start that whole cycle all over again.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at it from a standpoint of, oh, they just got that just because, the system likes them and the system is against me. Now, I'm not one to ignore the system that's in place, right? I'm not one to ignore what happened. I'm not to ignore what is happening right now. But what I am going to say is that once you know what it is that you need to know, and the information is all over the internet, right? Once you put yourself in a position to learn what it is that you need to learn, then it's no longer you can place the blame on somebody else. It's now on you. One of the subtitles on my book is, where you are may not be your fault, but where you stay is. And so once you get that knowledge and you choose not to do anything with it, you can't blame it on anybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does. It will have you looking at the world from a different perspective.
It does. I think, there's also the element of, after you go through so many experiences where you attempt to gain access to something, but you don't get it,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't get it. And then the world continues to beat you down.
Right.
Then you're contending with, like you say, a really skewed view of the world that you live in, right? You can become angry. You have this victim mentality, but yet there can also be mental health issues that you succumb to, like depression and anxiety, because that's all connected to self-worth,
Right.
how you feel about yourself. And so you hope, that people that obtain the information at a specific time that can really help them get themselves out of that hole aren't too deep into it, especially weighted down by levels of maybe depression and anxiety, because there's a lot of that in our society today.
Yeah.
People are trying to figure out how to get just out of that.
Right. Yeah. And that's, that's something that crosses all financial backgrounds, ethnicities, or whatever. There's a people, matter of fact, I didn't get a chance to tell you this, but my wife wrote a book called Naked Truth: A Christian's Battle with Anxiety and Depression.
Oh,
she,
wow.
she went through that real bad. And the whole thing is, in the church, a lot of times they'll say, oh, just pray through it and pray about it. God will do this and do that. And, it's not just that, right? It's more to it than that. And what we discovered was that, and she was saying if she can write the book again, she would write it from a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
Our belief now, because it kind of changed a little bit once we started getting a better understanding. Our belief now is that a lot of times people, and for her case, her depression came about because this is our belief, and I'm trying to pass it on to anybody else. You have this inner being, you have this inner self, right? And then you have this outer self. This outer self is like your ego. It's the one that, no, that ain't right. That ain't right. No, a tree isn't a living thing. It's just an object. God can't exist through a tree. He can't exist through everything that's living, right? And so, but this inner self knows a little bit more. And a lot of times what happens is that when that inner self is fighting with that outer self, there becomes the result of that can sometimes come out to be a depression, because that inner self really knows that there's something better. It really knows that there's, you know, you can have whatever your heart's desire. You can really, you know, manifest whatever it is that you want. That's your inner self. It knows that. It sees that. It experiences that. But your outer self is saying, no, I can't have that because I live in this side of town, or I'm this race, or I'm this gender, or I'm this and that. I can't have that. And your inner self is like, yes, you can. And
Yeah.
so it begins to be this battle that tends to fight. And so you get depressed because your outer self is suppressing your inner self.
Yes.
So if you take suppression eventually turns into depression. So
Yes.
you know, but once you start getting out of your own way and stop letting ego run the ship and start letting your inner self allow it to be, then you're going to start manifesting so many things. My most happiest times was when I started getting myself out of the way. And yeah, so it, you know, depression is a real thing. And I pray for anybody that has it, because it's tough. The person that has it, and even the person that's caring for them. Because when my wife is going through it, one of the hardest things for me to do is to see my wife go through something and I can't do anything about it. I can't help it because I couldn't understand it, right? And so she helped me understand it. So
yeah,
but
that's great. But it's so true, Jeremy. Just like, you know, there's a lot of things I look at all the time, and it's just like, you know, especially I was an athlete and you know, loved competition. But you know, when I look back now and I reflect back on all competition, you're only always competing against yourself.
yeah,
You're always competing against yourself. What's going on in your mind? How
right,
you really feeling about this situation?
right,
Do you feel really capable? You know, and it's really a battle of it's always been a battle for me to overcome me and get out of my way.
yeah,
Because if I'm able to get out of my way, then I was just hugely successful.
yeah,
But when I couldn't and I tripped up
mhm,
and I was holding on, it really inhibited my ability to perform,
yeah,
you know. But it is true. It's really truly about learning how to get out of your way.
right.
So Jeremy, so you and your wife wrote books.
Yeah, we wrote books. Honestly, and I'll be transparent with you. I'm I don't see myself as a great writer. Like me and my wife, we've written stage plays. We've you know, she's written a couple of short films because she went to school for writing for TV and things like that.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to write this book, but she was kind of taking a while, right? And because and we know now why, but then we didn't know. And so my effort to like push her to write our book, you know, I do photography and stuff as well. So I did the pictures for her book cover, and you know, we put that out, right? Because sometimes when you put your stuff out there, it like, you know, it inspires you to now, you know, put up or shut up. And so
Mhm.
we put her book cover out, and things just wasn't going, and we wasn't understanding. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna write this book, and I'm gonna write a book about winning, you know, about how to overcome and how to win and stuff like that. And then I'm like, I don't know, and I just kind of put it aside, and then it came to me, write about something that you know. And I was, of course, doing mortgages at the time. And I say, well, you know what? I might as well write about this credit thing. And so I
Mhm.
started doing more research so I could, you know, really have a book in hand. And then I figured, okay, well, there's not much research I got to do to tell my story. So I did that along with other factual things. And so I did that to push her to write her book. Right. So that worked. So she,
Mhm.
you know, when I did put my book out, then she ended up writing a book as well. So
Okay.
hers is better written than mine, but you know,
Can you still get hers on Amazon?
yeah, hers is on Amazon as well. It's called
It,
Naked Truth. Um,
Naked Truth.
Naked Truth.
Okay.
Yeah, and Christians battle with anxiety and depression. And
Okay.
so, just like I tell you, the church wouldn't let me come in with my effed up my credit cover, and they didn't
Yeah.
let her come in either because you know she's naked on the front cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Okay.
call it Naked Truth. But no, we just laugh about that sometimes. But yeah, hers is on Amazon as well.
All right. So for the viewers out there that are struggling, for the viewers that are struggling with paying bills,
Mhm.
for the viewers that are out there that are trying to figure out how to get that that debt that they have coming at them every month
Mhm.
out of their way, but they may not be making enough money to do it, right? So they're getting buried more and more, the anxiety, the stress, and it's really affecting their ability in life. I
Yeah.
mean, what kind of guidance can you give people like that, that they have this debt, it's out there, maybe they come from a family like yours, that they weren't well educated with how to manage their fundings and finances, or just nobody was around to kind of share that kind of insight with them, and now you have this debt, and they may have a job, but the money that they make doesn't cover the cost of all the debt coming in.
Right.
What can they do? Because with that, there's no happiness.
Yes.
Living life like that, there's no happiness.
Yeah.
You can't joy. It's a constant stressor every day you wake up. That's all you're thinking about. What am I going to do to pay the bills that I can't even afford? And I'm working a job.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in that position today. So what kind of guidance can you give them?
Well, you said something that was very important. You know, they wake up thinking about that, right? I'm a firm believer that you get what you focus on. Okay. And
Okay.
the people that have money problems, they focus on their money problems, right?
Okay.
When the and I'm speaking from my experience too. The time I had my worst finance problems, I focused on that every day, and that's what I focused on. And you get what you focus on. You manifest what you focus on. I wasn't focusing on, being out of debt. I wasn't focusing on, having positive flow income. I was focusing on those little lines in front of my balance in my bank account. That's negative for y'all, that some of y'all that don't know. That was my focus, right? And
Yeah.
so the first thing is, in my opinion, is turning your mindset. Changing your mindset to a different perspective. Um, for anybody that's watching, in case you didn't know it, in case nobody has ever told you, say, hey, I heard it from this effed up my credit guy. Hopefully you believe me, but you are worthy. Okay. You are worthy. You're worthy of whatever it is that you desire out of life. You're worthy of that. You're worthy to not be in debt. You're worthy to basically have, a whole bunch of money in your bank account if that's what you want. You're worthy of having positive cash flow. You're worthy of that, right? So if nobody's ever told you that, I'm telling you that. I know what the church teaches us. I know what other people's probably told you. Oh, you're not worthy. You are. You're worthy. Having that mindset, understanding that you're worthy, you begin to walk in your worthiness. You begin to look at things from a different perspective. When I started looking at, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, right? There are days I wake up and I say, hey, I don't feel like it. I'm not worthy. It's tough, blah, blah, blah. I still have those days, but most of the time I'm looking in the mirror and I'm knowing that I'm worthy, that I'm worthy of something better than whatever the situation is. And
So
so,
let me ask you this though, Jeremy. There had to be a pivotal time in your experience, right? Where you're like you said, you're waking up every day and all you're thinking about is this debt that's
mm,
coming at you all the time. You're stressed, you're not feeling healthy. Probably sometimes you don't want to get out of bed,
right.
but then you shifted your way of thinking.
Mhm.
How did you do that? How do people shift their mindset off of that pain and focus on something that's going to get them out of their situation? Because that's the big thing.
Right.
Most people can't do that.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
sitting around and they're buried, and they get even more buried and more buried
right.
into into this crisis. And then it's all of this big mountain that's coming at them all. And they feel like they're done. They're hopeless.
Yeah.
And then it affects their self-worth. When was that pivotal moment that you learned that, okay, if I shift my focus, and then how did you do that? And did you just immerse yourself in a completely different
It,
thought
it,
process or
it,
idea or purpose of what you were going to do?
it was a decision, right?
Okay.
I just made a decision. There was one point in time in my life I was a vegan, right? I know, I fell off the wagon, but I'm gonna jump back on it eventually. But I went vegan,
You,
and there was no prep work or nothing like that. I just said, you know what? I'm not gonna eat. I'm just gonna go vegan. And this was around Thanksgiving time. Now, keep in mind, we got a big family. I told you my wife is a baby of 10, big family, sisters and brothers and everything. They do these big Thanksgiving dinners. And so I did it right around Thanksgiving. and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And then after Thanksgiving, we had Christmas. Everybody just knew I was going to have meat during Christmas, and I didn't, right? So, but I changed my mindset, and when I did that, every milestone that I had, I just made up in my mind, you know what? I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be a vegan for my whole life. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be a vegan for a whole year. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do vegan for a whole month. I'm gonna do vegan day by day. I'm gonna be vegan today. I'm gonna make a choice to be vegan. So I made that choice. I made that decision to what I consider in my mind to win that day, right? So in my mind, I just turned it on. I just made a decision and followed up with it. So people in the financial crisis, you got to make a decision. Number one, to know that you're worthy. When you know that you're worthy, then you're going to walk in that worthiness. So when you make that decision, don't say, my suggestion, you don't have to say, hey, I'm gonna make 100,000 this year. I'm gonna make 10,000 this month. Just say today, because I mean, once you really look at it, a lot of the frustration and the stress that we have are things that haven't even happened yet.
That's right.
It's we stress so much about future things and about past things instead of living in the present. So start living in the present. Say right now, today, are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. Are you well? Yes, I'm well. Do you have your limb? Can you move? Can you blink? Are you breathing? Yes, I'm breathing. Well, I'm gonna be grateful in that moment right there. So I changed my mindset, and then I started being present in the moment and started being grateful for those present moments, not the future, because I knew that next week I was gonna get a late payment.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question about how did you stay present in the moment?
Gratitude, honestly. Like,
Okay.
when you start listing off things that you're grateful for, you can be present in that moment, because every moment that we have, there's something to be grateful for, right? Because you're taking a breath. That's, even if you got to break it down to that, there's something to be grateful for. All of my kids are alive. Well, we lost a son, but my kids now, they're all safe.
Yeah.
Can I be grateful for that in this moment right here today? Forget about this disconnection notice that I'm going to get next week, because I know it's coming. I don't even want to focus on that, because if I focus on that, then that's going to change my whole perspective, and I'm going to continue to focus on negative things, and I'm going to continue to attract negative things. I don't want to attract negative things no more. I want to focus on positive, and so therefore,
Wow. So even though you knew things were going to be turned off, possibly,
mm-hmm.
literally stuck to focusing on what you could do today.
Focusing on what I can do today, and I kid you not. Now, have I had my lights turned off before? Yeah, we left a stage play that we wrote, and we performed that night, and we came home and our lights was off. And and I made a decision. Okay, I could be upset, and because it was cold during that time. My daughters were young. My wife is looking at me, and then we just started laughing. And I'm like, you know what? We should have just stayed at the theater, because they had lights on at the theater. And so we laughed about it, right? We took a different perspective on it. And the light company ended up turning the lights back on. So that wasn't the issue. But a lot of times when I do that, when I focus on those positive things, I start attracting positive things, and stuff starts happening, right? I'll get a check in the mail from the light company saying that I overpaid, right? Or I'll get a check from a family member or an old business partner, or old, just all these things just start happening out of nowhere, things that I can't even explain. And when you start focusing on those positive things, when you start being present in the moment and being grateful, the more that you're grateful for, the more you'll have to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it again, the more that you're grateful for, the more you will have to be grateful for. So the more that we can operate in gratitude, no matter what our situation is, just like I said, take it, if you can't take it one day at a time, take it 1 hour at a time, or take it one moment at a time, and start finding things to be grateful for. That's going to help with your mindset. It's going to help change your perspective. And believe it or not, it's going to help change your journey. And what's going to happen is that things that you're going to start attracting things that you wouldn't have been able to explain it 2 weeks prior. Like, there's things that happened to me this week. Last week, I couldn't have explained that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you change that mindset, you change that perspective. And when you do that, when you know that you're worthy, when you start finding gratitude in your moments, then what happens is that you'll start putting yourself in an environment where you can obtain the knowledge that you need to do what it is that you need to do. Right. So I'm not saying, hey, just sit here and meditate all day long and all your bills are going to be paid. Now, is that possible? I believe that all things are possible. That's not how I did it, right? But because a lot of times it's really hard for us to understand, because we still fighting that ego outside man fighting the inside man. But what I am going to say is that, you know, put yourself on a positive road, a positive track, and then start putting yourself in an environment where you can start meeting like-minded people that are where you want to be in life, or that's doing something that you want to do in life. Before I started my credit repair business, I got around other credit repair people. I was part of Facebook communities of other credit repair people, and I wasn't even doing credit repair. I wanted to hear their stories. I wanted to see what it was that they were doing. And so I was able to pick up on that vibration or that energy. So that's the next thing that you have to do is get around people that are where you want to be in life. If that means cutting people off in your family, you cut them off. Now, I'm not telling you to leave your wife or anything like that, but I'm saying like your uncle, your brother, something that they're always negative and always complaining about what's not right. You have to cut them off for that time being because you're not strong enough to control the environment. Now, when you get strong enough to control the environment, you can go wherever you want to go because you
Right.
already know I'm gonna find something to be grateful for in this moment. But just starting out, get yourself around people that are like-minded. You know, there's a lot of free resources out there, right? You know, I know what you're saying. You asked me about I can't pay my bills now. What do I need to do? Get yourself around like-minded people because those like-minded people eventually they're going to show you how to take what it is that you already have in your possession and utilize that to bring in additional income. What I mean by that, there's everybody is great at something, right? And it's probably not what you're doing on your at your 9 to 5. Now, I'm not saying that you're not great at that. You're probably great at that, but there's something else that you have to bring to the table. Whatever it may be, there's something that you do for free that somebody will pay a fee to get you to do that for them. You cook great dinners. You do it for free. You do it for your family. Everybody always talk about your food and how great it is. Somebody will pay you to do that for them. You cut grass. You do a great job. You're very detail oriented. You just do it great. Somebody will pay you to do that. So you're going to have to, if your job isn't getting you what you need, is just basically getting you by, you're going to have to start figuring out how to develop other streams of income. One of the things that I did within my credit repair space, I said, you know what? All right, doing the credit repair. I'm generating business from that. Because keep in mind, you guys, I left my job. The year before I left my job, we was at 6 figures before when I left my job. So I walked away from that, right? And so I had to start pulling from all my talents and gifts and things like that, and say, okay, what is it that I can do? And when I started building up this credit community of working with clients, and then I started saying, okay, I can educate other credit repair business owners. And that's what I started doing. I started, you know, I created this Facebook group. I started giving them free advice on how to build their business the way that I started building mine. And what I did, I pulled from the knowledge that I gained as a loan officer. When I was a loan officer, I learned how to connect and work with realtors and loan officers and things, and I mean with realtors to get business from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the credit repair space, it's the same thing. We need people sending business our way. Well, who's the best person to send business our way? Realtors and loan officers. So I took what I learned in that segment and put it over here, and I made a course out of it, right? Went online, figured out how to do it. I made a 6 module course out of that. And now I've sold over the one day when I put my course on sale, I made about $12,000 in that one day. Just
wow.
from, you know,
Where did
so,
you post? Where's the course posted at?
well, it's in a private group, and it's for like people that are in the credit repair space. They have access to it. I'm actually working on one for loan officers too, but it's inside of the credit repair space. But what I did is that I built that group up, and it was probably about 300 people that I built it up to, and then it went to over 1,000, and then I trimmed it back down. But I built this group up, and then I dropped a course inside this group because I was giving away so much free content, and then now I created this course and I made it affordable for people. And now those people took the course and they're now giving their success story. Oh, I met 5 agents. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, my business doing that. So I took something that I already had and I figured out a way to monetize it. So that's the same thing for you is find something that you already have, something that you're good at. Always, and I'm telling my wife, I'm like, you got a course in you. You're so organized and you're so efficient. You need to create your course because once again, COVID taught us something. COVID taught us that you can make a great living online, right?
Sure.
And most people, if you're watching this video, you got internet access, right? You got a gift and you got internet access. So you have a way to monetize some things. And I don't care if you're just making an extra $200 or $300 a month. That could be more than what you're making right now. And that can help you start, you know, getting out of that debt. But it goes all the way back to saying, are you worthy? most of y'all don't believe that you're worthy to teach anybody anything. I used to feel the same way, but everybody has something that they can teach someone, and there's people that want to learn this stuff. When I tell you some of the coaches and stuff that I work with when it comes to teaching courses, some of the students that they have and the courses that one lady has a course on breastfeeding, and like she's just making thousands of dollars, like, a month on
Sure. Yeah.
on teaching new moms how to breastfeed. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
selling something, right? And
Yeah.
you know, she tells
Udemy opened up that, and a few of Udemy is one of them, where you can post all kinds of online training courses, and there's a couple other sites too now where
yeah,
people have done quite well, and there's every single topic you could possibly imagine.
it's crazy, man. I'm
Right.
like, wow, okay.
So you're creating these courses yourself, and then you're posting them in your groups.
Right. Well, the thing is, I created, and that's the great thing about a course, right? You can do the work once, and it can continue to make money as long
Yes.
as long as it's not one of those, because there's a lot of courses out there that's really not teaching people anything. It's just, it sounds good and it looks good, and when you get in it, it's like, okay, I still left here with nothing. So you still need to know how to structure your course and how to put it together, and how to use social media and graphics and stuff like that. There's still some type of investment into putting that together, but that's really time and money. But there's really like work that you can just do once, and that's something that's going to be residual as long as you have an audience that's looking for what it is that you're trying.
Sure.
So do that. Change your mindset. Know that you're worthy. Be grateful. Put yourself in an environment of people that are doing what it is that you want to do, or that's in life where you want to be in life, or headed in that direction. So I'm not saying you got to listen to millionaires, right? All I'm saying is that if you see somebody headed in that direction, they got a millionaire mindset, then that's maybe somebody you want to be around, because you're going to pick up something.
Yeah.
When I did my course, I was one of my coaches that I have. I was just listening. One day I was cleaning. My wife, she'd make me do chores on the weekend. And so one day I was cleaning. I'm like, I don't feel like listening to anything else. I just put the thing in my ear, and he started talking about, if you need to make $1,000 today, what would you do to make $1,000 today? And so that made me think. And then he thought, what happens if you created a course? If you started marketing a course and start selling a course even before your course is complete? And I'm like, wow, how can you do that? He's like, well, as long as you got your outline and you know what it is that you want to teach, you can put a course together and start marketing it and start selling it within 2 weeks. And then you put it on pre-sale, and it's not going to happen until, the actual, and that's what I did with my course. I put it together, I put the outline together. I knew what I was going to talk about, but, I wanted to film, I wanted to use my fancy cameras and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so what I did though, I put it on sale, and then I put it on sale, and that made me be accountable to making sure that I finished the course. But what I did is that when I put it on sale, the course didn't drop until a month later. So it gave me a whole 4 weeks to start putting things together. And I didn't even finish all the modules before module 1 came about. What I did is I said, okay, you'll have access to module 1. A week later, you'll have access to module 2. A week later, you have access to module 3, right? So I was able to build my course week by week by week, and now have a finished product. And so now whenever I do things, I just go back and dump it in the course, and I let new people know, hey, y'all, this amount of people, they were successful from this course, and you can join it. And I got some added content in it. And you just build it like that. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get on the course thing. I just want to tell people that there are ways that you can start generating more money, so that you're not stuck in that debt the way that it is.
Yeah.
But first, you got to know you're worthy of doing that.
Yeah. And I think that the key things that I took away from what you said, and that got you out of that situation, was you said, you got to shift your mindset, and then you got to be grateful. And you got to find a way to be grateful, which is going to bring you into the present moment, and not worrying about what's going to be happening a month from now, even a few days from now, or a week from now. Yeah. Because if you stay focused on that, then you're going to feel depressed, and even more depressed.
Right.
And then surround yourself with like-minded people, and see where that leads to.
Yeah.
So those 3 key things: shifting mindset, be grateful, and like-minded. Did I miss anything, or?
No, well, the last thing is just execution. Like, it's cool to be around people that where you want to be in life, but if you don't execute something, if you don't do something, if you don't take action, then all it is that they're just there for your entertainment. And
Mhm.
so if you want to be entertained, you can watch Netflix or anything like that.
What would you say for the people, Jeremy, that are out there and they're like, they don't know where to go,
Mhm,
what direction to look in? They just don't have a feeling of purpose.
mhm.
So what do you say to people like that are like, they have this debt coming in, they're depressed, and yeah, okay, I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to start being grateful. I'm going to work to shift my mindset, stay in the present moment. But I don't know who my tribe is. I don't know who my like-minded people are.
Mhm.
I don't know what I want to do.
Right. Um,
What do you do there?
One of the things that most people have a circle that they're around, right? It's your
Yeah.
family or your friends. Sometimes you can ask your friends, "Hey, real talk. Be honest with me. What is it you think I'm good at?" And they're going to tell you, "Well, you're good at making people laugh. You're very funny. Or, you're so good at dressing up. I just love the way you put these pieces together." They're going to tell you what it is that you're good at, right?
Hmm.
So, find people that you trust, right? And that's honest. And I mean honest enough to say, you're good at dressing and your clothes, but when it comes to keeping your car clean, you're not good at that.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Okay.
so there's nothing wrong with hearing that from people saying what it is that you're not good at, but find out from other people. If you don't know, right? It's one thing if you know what you're good at, then you can run with that. But if you don't know what you're good at because you probably got so many different talents, or you probably don't feel like you got purpose or talents at all, find out what it is that you're good at. You'll be surprised that the people around you will tell you, what it is you get. Even if put it out, if you have a Facebook community or whatever, put something out there and say, hey, I want to ask a real question. What do you think I'm good at? Or what is it you think I'm good at? And they'll tell you, they'll list off some things. And when they list off some things, and I don't mean to sound quirky, but there's this your inner being will let you know, in some form or fashion, like that's it.
Yeah.
That's what it is I wanted you to get, right? Because your inner being knows, right? And so it just, the ego is still in the way. So do that. Ask around, ask people what do they think that you're good at? And
Yeah.
it could be something as simple as, I think you're a great listener. I
Yeah.
I have all my problems and stuff, and whenever I talk to you, you just listen. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's great advice, man.
yeah,
That is great advice.
thank you, man.
Well, Jeremy, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we didn't cover?
Um,
Any?
I
I think.
mean, I can go on for days, but I
Yeah.
don't want to take a lot of time because it's so much, man. I just once again I want to thank you for allowing me to be on here, and hopefully I've said something to where it will spark somebody's inspire them in some kind of way. I try to tell people there's nothing wrong with motivation, but inspiration is internal, right? Motivation is outside things. Like I get motivated when I see nice cars. So I like nice things. That motivates me. But until I internalize it, like it doesn't move me the way that it can. So hopefully I've said something that's going to inspire you and reach down to that person on the inside and say, yeah, that's what I need to hear. I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
come up with another source of income, or I need to take my credit more serious. And it might be denying yourself of some things for a brief moment.
Yeah. No, you shared a lot of great tips and insights, and it was very inspiring. So
Right.
thanks so much, Jeremy, for being here. Jeremie Roberts, he's an actor and he is the CEO of J Productions. He's also got he's the CEO of the credit repair company Exodus Credit Services, and you get that at exoduscreditservices.com. And you got to buy his book called Effed Up My Credit on Amazon. It's a bestseller.
Yeah.
Jeremy, man, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thank you so much. Anytime, just let me know. Once again, it was a pleasure.
Have a great evening, bud.
All right, bro. Thank you.